Hi guys, how are you doing? Okay, so in my last video I discussed with you what a narcissist was, what narcissistic personality disorder was, and how you could kind of start to identify that type of personality. Now, if you have watched my last video, if you haven't, go check it out, but if you've watched my last video, I'm kind of assuming that you think you know someone who's narcissistic, or you think you may be in that type of environment. So if so, keep watching the rest of the series. In this video, I'm going to talk about what I briefly touched on previously within the family. I said that narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder is passed on through generation to generation to generation. And that is a fact, it can be traced. If a narcissistic personality disorder type does have children, specifically if they have 2 children or more, a certain dynamic will play out. A narcissist has to live in their own bubble. In that bubble, they are amazing. They are superior to other people. They are more intellectual than other people. And one of the children tends to play into that role. Or at least one child will show a little bit more pliability to play out that role. There will be a child that doesn't play into that role so easily, and they are the more rebellious child. They will be the child that questions things and goes more internally to answer for themselves what they believe to be correct and not go by just what the narcissist says it to be. Over time, these children will be pit against each other by the narcissist. Eventually, they will take the role of the golden child and the scapegoat. The golden child is the child who enables the narcissist. They buy into the delusions of grandeur. They make out that that parent is amazing and everything they do is fabulous and they can do no wrong, because ultimately the narcissistic parent does not want to admit any faults, and the golden child knows this and is not going to question that authority, because they know if they question the authority, it's not going to go well for them. On the other hand, the scapegoat child, they will be the child that questions the authority of the narcissist. They will see a moral thing happening there. They can see the lies, they can see the deceit, they can see through what's going on there, and they refuse to play along. Over time, it gets worse and worse and worse. So when they're children and when they're very, very young and these roles are still being developed, the narcissist will pit all the children against each other. They will use triangulation. They will try and make the scapegoat child jealous of the golden child, because the golden child is amazing and they buy into all the crap. And why can't you just be like that? Why can't you buy into the crap just like they do? And the scapegoat child tends to be stubborn and they don't want to, and they still refuse to do that. So triangulation doesn't work. Then they'll start to use other forms. They'll use projection. They'll accuse that child of being jealous. They'll accuse that child of being a troublemaker. Then they go on these smear campaigns, and when they go on these smear campaigns, they will say that the scapegoat child, they lie, they manipulate, they're such a troublemaker, they don't do what they're told, they're such a bad child. And whilst that's happening, the golden child is there along with the narcissistic parent saying, "You're right, I saw that, and you're right." And they're acting like this is true. In fact, towards later in life, they start to believe that it's true. The narcissist and the golden child have this symbiosis of enabling each other into this delusion of, we are perfect, we are fine, everything is good, we're justified, there's a balance, there's a harmony, you're the yin to my yang. The scapegoat child becomes this target for a barrage of abuse. They will take that child down, and that is their modus operandi. That is what they want to do more than anything else, because the golden child has learned that they will get the attention, they will get this is not love, but it's the closest thing the narcissist will give to love, because they're completely incapable of giving love the way that you and I require this. So the golden child will receive a lot of this attention and narcissistic supply. Now, the golden child at some point has a choice to make, or they had a choice to make, depending on your time scale. Along that timeline, at some point, the golden child knew what was happening to the scapegoat was wrong. They could see the lies. They could see the smear campaigns. And they have to think to themselves, am I going to stand up for that sibling who's getting mistreated? But if I do that, I run the risk of being treated the way that scapegoat is being treated. I will lose my status as the golden child. Or option 2 will be, do I start to treat the scapegoat the way my narcissistic parent treats the scapegoat? That being, I will start to lie about them, and I will start to smear campaign, and I will start to harass and bully, because that's what my parent does to this child. If the golden child chooses option 2, ultimately they themselves have decided the process of becoming a narcissistic type and having narcissistic personality disorder themselves. Because what enables that type of behavior is this fundamental belief that they are entitled. The parent having a disorder feels entitled to treat their children this way. Now, they don't treat anyone right, but they will treat the golden child considerably better. They'll treat the scapegoat child considerably worse, and they do not want to be held accountable for their actions. When the golden child makes the choice to start treating the scapegoat the way the narcissistic parent treats the scapegoat, they feel entitled to do the same. And as time progresses, what will happen with the dynamic towards the scapegoat gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. So what started as being the problem child and being the rebel and being the odd one out progresses to being, you're a really bad person and you do everything wrong, and why can't you do everything right, and you're not like other people, what's wrong with you? And then it progresses further to hostility, abuse, manipulation, harassment, and then it goes even further. And there really is no end game, because what they take joy in and what they take pleasure in is the complete destruction of this person who has become their target. That's all they care about. They care more about causing harm and causing pain than they do ever doing any good in life, because that's what they know. Ultimately, it will lead to what is known in psychology as family mobbing. The narcissistic parent and the golden child will go around the other family to blacklist the scapegoat child, because they'll carry on this theme of this child, everything they do is wrong, everything they do is terrible, oh my god, you should see what they did the other day, oh my god, you should see what they did last week, did you know they're such a bad person, they are so terrible. And we'll go on these bitch fests about the scapegoat. Most people, when they're told something bad about someone, don't check the facts. They don't actually check to see if it's true or not, because the narcissist will use half facts and half truths, and they'll use little bits that the family have seen to create this story that the scapegoat child is the worst thing that has ever happened. They are the Antichrist. They are horrendously bad in every single way, and they have absolutely no redeeming qualities whatsoever. They start to believe it. And because they start to believe it, they start to enable all this hostility. If the narcissistic parent has more than 2 children, be that 3, 4, 5, 6 kids, all the attention is going towards the golden child being amazing and the scapegoat child being the worst thing since like ever. So there's no room for any other children there. They tend to be referred to as the lost children. No other child will ever get the same amount of attention between the golden child and the scapegoat child, because one is all good and one is all evil, and anything in the middle, you're just in that kind of grey area. Golden children tend to be very arrogant. They tend to be very self-righteous, extremely entitled to do whatever they want to do at any given point. The golden child will always emulate those characteristics of their parent. They've been taught to do that. They've learned to do that, and that's what they will carry on through life. The scapegoat child, from a very young age, has never done good enough. They have never, ever been given praise, whether they've done good or not. They've never been told they were special. They've never been told they were amazing. They've never been given that type of attention. Therefore, they don't require that type of attention. They've become very self-sustainable. They don't care anymore that they're becoming the bad person, because no matter what they do, they're always going to be the bad one, so they stop trying. They no longer care about being the bad one. All the narcissistic parent wants and all the golden child wants is this attention and this adoration and this narcissistic supply. The scapegoat child doesn't require any of that. They don't care. They know they've been the bad one for so long. They know they've been talked about as the problem maker and the bad child and the bad kid. And at some point, the scapegoat stopped caring. They just don't give a shit anymore, and they created their own life. Scapegoat children tend to be very self-sufficient. They tend to be very introvert when they're younger. They want their little space, so they'll go away to their bedroom and they'll hide in their bedroom, or they'll lock the door and go away to their safe place, because that's where they're allowed to be themselves. They want to hide away from all of that mess. And eventually what will usually happen is that the scapegoat leaves that dynamic, and the scapegoat will abandon this sinking ship that just is this mess of harassment and hostility and this just really awful environment. If you're watching this video and you are the scapegoat child, you have every potential to heal, to recover from what has been done to you. You will be a better person. You will be stronger for that. And you will be an amazing parent, because you won't continue that horrible cycle onto your children, because you feel empathy and you know what it's like to be the bad one, and you know what it's like to be the awful one and the troublemaker and the reason that everything bad will happen. And you won't pass that on to your children. You won't pass that on to people around you. So it's not so bad when you're older being the scapegoat child, because you tend to have a life where you choose your own way. You choose your rules. You decide what you want to do in life, and you follow your dreams. The golden child and the lost children, they can't do that, because their whole life is pleasing that horrible parent. So that was my brief summary of what can happen within a narcissistic family dynamic and the narcissistic parents' relationships with the golden child, the scapegoat child, and the lost children in between. If you like these videos, there will be more, so keep watching for part 3. Bye guys.